Every year I get students tell me, "Sir, how do I go about revising geography?" So I thought I'd make a video to explain how to best approach revising for geography and GCSE in general. Okay, from a geographical point of view, we think there's 4 things you need to do to maximize your chance of getting a grade 9. First thing, you need to be organized. Okay, you need to know what you're revising and what topics and where your resources are, etc. You then have to learn that content. Once you've learned the content, you need to practice that content, apply it again and again in different contexts, and then you have to repeat that process again and again and again. Okay? So, step 1 to organize, you need to get yourself ready to revise. You need to get yourself into gear with the correct gear. Okay, so before you begin any revision, you need to make sure you've got access to the correct equipment. That equipment involves your books, or at GCSE, your folders at A-level. It requires you knowing where and how to access a GCSE and A-level Google Drive, for instance, where we've got past exam questions and mark schemes, we've got knowledge organizers, we've got case study review sheets, we've got lesson content and resources per unit. We've got workbooks, scans of the textbooks. We've got this kind of gold mine, treasure trove for your specification. You need to make sure you know how to access your Seneca class, so you know how to do some revision. Okay. You need to be aware that I've made already loads of resources on the Mr. Vis Geography YouTube channel. There's so much there for you to use. You potentially might want to buy a revision guide, buy a second-hand version of the textbook, anything that can help you, really, okay? And the key thing, you also need to you need to set yourself a strict routine. You need to ideally make yourself a revision timetable, but be realistic, okay? If you decide that for every day you're going to revise 3 hours, an hour of geography, an hour of math, an hour of physics, I'm not gonna lie, by day 2 you probably have failed, okay? Because it's just unrealistic. If you need to do that in addition to your school homework, in addition to your afternoon clubs, your extracurricular clubs in afternoon, as well as just being a normal human being and wanting a bit of free time, be realistic. Set yourself half an hour of a subject, have a bit of a break, another half an hour. Just according to how much time you have, maybe revise a little bit more at the weekend, a bit less in the week because you've got an intense week. Just set yourself realistic goals, make you feel like you're succeeding rather than being over ambitious and failing from day 1. Once you've done that in geography, though, to organize yourself, the best way to organize yourself, there's only one way really, is to use a review sheets. We've got some extensive review sheets that look something like this, and they review the key content of each unit. Okay, so for example, this is Living World unit in paper 1. One of the lessons we did was on how ecosystems work. Another one was on the changing impacts of changing ecosystem, and then we had several lessons on the characteristics of rainforests. So we've got case studies you need to be aware of. You need page numbers of textbooks here you can use, and these are kind of key learning questions you need to be able to answer to be ready for your exam. So a good way to organize your notes is to answer these review sheets. So you can either complete the review sheets on computer, by hand. I do recommend doing it from memory first. Soon you get stuck or you're running out of information, you can then turn to the textbook. You might want to use a different color because that's clearly the stuff you need to revise. Okay, I know some people hate those review sheets. They're not the most glamorous, so you can turn them into flashcards. Okay, you can write this question on one side of the flashcard, on the other side of the flashcard you can draw a diagram of the nutrient cycle of a food web, and then that would be a really good way to revise. Okay, but you have to do flashcards or review sheets, completing them. But if you base everything around a review sheet, it's a really good way to organize your work before you even start. Once that's done, you need to learn that information. You're organized, you need to learn the stuff. The reason for that is a lot of what you learn in class goes into your working memory. Is what you can recall it for a few hours, for a few days, and then you've forgotten about it, really. So you need to encode it into that long-term memory part of your brain. You need to make sure that by repeating it again and again and again, it gets encoded, it gets kind of embedded and stored in that long-term memory, so that when it comes to exams, you can just retrieve that information out of the geography drawer in the back of your brain, and it comes spitting out. Okay, but if you don't encode it in the first place, it'll never come back to you. Simple as that. And the best way to encode things is to not just read your notes. You need to be active with your notes. You can't passively read them, watch them on YouTube, highlight them, making them look pretty. That's a bit of a waste of your time. You need to actively do something with them, rewrite them, summarize them. Make cartoons out of it. A few ideas here, for example, you could quiz yourself on Seneca. You could watch case study videos I've made on YouTube. That's great. You can't just watch the YouTube videos. As well as that, you might want to test yourself and others, okay? And when you do test yourself, be picky. I've got a 3-year-old at home. She spends her time asking why, how, Why is this? Why is that? You need to probe yourself to explain more knock-on effects. Okay, you could record your notes, for instance, and listen to those notes afterwards. I used to really work really well by talking my revisions out loud to nobody in my room. Okay, as a kid, I used to throw a tennis ball against the wall of my bedroom whilst talking to myself. I used to go outside in the garden and like spin and kick a rugby ball up and down, up and down, up and down. And as I did that, I talked to myself through what I needed to know. For me, that worked. Okay, you can draw spider diagrams. I used to love that when I revised history, because you could have some key dates, some key names, some key stuff like that. Geography is the same for case studies. A spider diagram case study or example could work really well, or anything else that works for you. Cartoon, sketches, you name it. But you actively have to do something with the information you've learned. Okay. But realistically, you can't do any of this learning if you don't have organized. If your notes are a mess, your revisions are going to be a mess, your learning is going to be a mess, and you'll have a messy result. Okay, simple as that. You have to be organized. Without the organization to go start, you won't be able to learn effectively. A few things to stay focused is don't procrastinate. Okay, so my top tips is turn off all electronic devices. Okay, keep them outside the room. Any pinging notification on an Apple Watch, on a phone, on a computer, on an iPad, on anything, okay, and an Alexa machine, you name it, get rid of it. It'll avoid you getting distracted. Okay, I remember sometimes playing FIFA on I think it was FIFA 11 at the time of my A levels, and I used to go, okay, I have to win this round of the cup before I go to do revision again. And sometimes like there'd be a replay and I have to play that, and sometimes I'd lose, so I have to play. You're just wasting a lot of time. Okay, you can do that, but in the breaks, not during the revision. Otherwise, you feel like you've done 2 hours of revision, but you've just wasted your time. Take regular and short breaks. Every 20 minutes, have a breather, have a break. If you struggle to get focused, don't waste your time. Okay, just call it quits. Go do something else. Go outside. An expression I've been hearing recently is go and touch some grass. Okay, go outside. Go get some fresh air. Go for a run. Go for a walk. Make a cup of tea. Read a book. Do some painting. Do some cartoons. Go play with your dog. I don't know. Whatever gets you a bit of a headspace, and then you come back more focused. Okay, and the key one too: do not compare yourself to other people. Some people will claim that they do hours and hours of revision, and actually they do nothing. Some people say they do nothing, they never need to revise, and actually they spend hours at home revising. Okay, if you compare yourself to other, you always feel like you might not be doing the right thing. What you're doing, if it works, it works. Trust yourself. Trust your gut feeling. No one knows you like you do. Okay. Once you've done that, once you've organized your notes, you communicated knowledge. You need to put them into practice. Okay. So I said here, you're not organized. No, you are organized. You've accumulated knowledge. You need to put it into practice. Best way to put it into practice is to practice past exam questions. I've got a whole playlist on YouTube where I do walking, talking mocks. So you can use those and see the exam question, the mark scheme, and explain what you need to do to get full marks. Those can be useful. You can look at the folders in GCSE or A-level Google Drive. The past exam questions, the mark schemes. You can go to the AQA or EdXL exam board website. Same thing. Okay, but there's 3 ways you can practice past exam question. You could just plan your answers out. Okay, plan, it'll allow you to do more questions. Just think about, right, we teach at A level and GCSE something called a P structure. I've got a whole video on that. Okay, right, what would be your P, your point, your evidence, your analysis, your counterpoint, your explanation? What PEACE? You could just plan out your points for each of these parts of your paragraph. You could also practice just writing an introduction and the first line of your paragraph. Okay, first paragraph, first sentence of each paragraph. Okay, is what I meant. That can work really well as well. Okay, you can make along it. You can make a list of all the appropriate case studies. An example that could be useful to you. That's another way. Ultimately, you might also sometimes, every so often, want to do write out a full 9 mark, 12 mark, 20 marker question under timed conditions. But you can't. If you only do C, you're going to burn out. If you only do A, you might not write. Might not be doing enough. You need to alternate between A, B, C options. But do a bit of those, and it'll help. Okay. To check your answers, check the resources above. Ask your teacher for help. We can mark some of your questions you practice at home. That's absolutely fine. But in my opinion, doing A and B are probably the most effective ways of answering more practice questions than if you just do them all on the time condition. Okay. And again, do not attempt a past exam question if you do not know what you're talking about. Okay, you need to know the content before you do the exam practice. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. So you need to do stage 2 before you do stage 3. And then you have to repeat the process. Okay, have a break, eat, sleep, and then next day try again with a different topic. We'll come back to the same subject further down the line. Okay, But again, you can't repeat the process if you haven't done the process through the first time around. Okay, so these are just so no, we can't tell you how to revise, but we can tell you what is our recommended way to revise. We've had to do the revisions ourselves in a few years ago. Trust me, we're talking from experience. This is the best way to prepare for your geography exam. With all of this, all the hard work, all the great lessons you've been to, there's no reasons why you won't do well.